Morning, and thank our media partners for showing up today. Again, for your records, I'm Hernando County Sheriff Al Nienhuis. It's spelled Nienhuis, and it's pronounced Nienhuis. Actually, I'm going to talk a little bit about three different homicides that have occurred in the very recent past here in Hernando County, kind of bring all of them together, and then maybe talk about some things that our public can do to help prevent them from becoming victims, particularly of violent crime. The first one I want to talk about very briefly, and I can't talk much about it because it's still an open investigation, and that's our Hazel Street homicide that occurred on February 7th. It was about 11:30 p.m. Most of you know that there was a 17-year-old victim in that particular case. And I will tell you that over the last several days, my detectives have been working pretty much 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, doing a tremendous number of interviews, probably in the upwards of 75 to 80 different interviews, doing a tremendous amount in the way of search warrants and other type of legal process like subpoenas and so forth. The workload is overwhelming in that case, but I will tell you that we know a tremendous amount more than we did when the first call came in, and we're definitely making some serious progress on that. And as soon as we have something specific that the detectives will allow me to release, we'll be able to do that. But we have people from every area of the sheriff's office. I won't go over it with you, but they're working very, very hard on that. One thing on that particular case I'd like to talk about a little bit about is making sure the public does not become susceptible nor spread rumors or information that has not been relayed by the sheriff's office. If anybody has any information, we'd appreciate it if they'd contact us directly. Spreading rumors through social media, we've all played the telephone game, and sometimes those rumors get exaggerated, and then they come to us and they become leads, and oftentimes they are vastly incorrect. And so we want to remind the public, contact us. Don't put rumors on social media. Also, when you're talking about a 17-year-old victim, it's very easy for passions to run high. We want to make sure that people don't ever attempt to take the law into their own hands, for the simple reason that oftentimes the information out there is incorrect, and we certainly don't want additional victims, particularly if a particular individual may not have had anything to do with the crime. And that's what our job is, and that's why these things take some time, and they can't be done overnight. So we want to know, we want the public to know that we are working very hard on it. We want to bring the people to justice who committed this terrible crime as much as anybody else, but please don't take the law into your own hands. And as the theme with any of our violent crimes, make sure you are concerned about even casual acquaintances. In this particular situation, I think I can go on record as saying this particular victim was not engaged in a high-risk lifestyle. She is a true victim in this case, but at the same time, it's very unusual. Almost 100% of the time, it is because of people that are either acquaintances that are living rather a high-risk lifestyle, or family brings an acquaintance into the situation that's living a high-risk lifestyle. So bottom line is make sure that the people you interact with are not living a high-risk lifestyle, and your chances of being a victim, I know there are many concerns out there on this particular one that somebody might become a victim. But again, if you are not living a high-risk lifestyle and not interacting with people that are living a high-risk lifestyle, your chances of being a victim are very, very slim. The next one I'd like to talk a little bit about is this is a couple pictures of Hazel Avenue here. Most of you know that. Now we'll talk a little bit about a residential fire that occurred on Harwell Street in Brooksville. This particular crime was called in on January 20th at about 1:20 in the morning. A neighbor actually called saying that there was a house fire, and of course initially we had no indication of whether there was any individual inside the house. It was a very intense fire. Let me see here. Whoops. Michael, I might need some help here. Oh, here we go. No. Oh,
Here.
oh, there it is. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's some indications of the fire. You can see it in the background. It's a little bit long, so I'll try to move through it a little bit quicker. But you can see here in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, the fire in the background. It was a very, very intense fire. As I said initially, we did not know if there was any individuals inside. We did later on, and I'll move this through here. We'll have this available for our media, but you can see some of the aftermath there of the fire. After it was extinguished, it took about 90 minutes for fire rescue to extinguish the fire. Pasco Sheriff's Office cadaver dogs were called in, and we did unfortunately locate human remains in the structure. Detectives obtained a search warrant. They did find a deceased human and 4 deceased dogs in the structure. The medical examiner, of course, responded. It took the remains for autopsy. The remains were very, very badly burnt. Detectives started talking to interviews, and one family member reported dropping off an individual at this particular house, Brianna Amon. Her date of birth is October 7th, 2001. She was dropped off at the house by another family member on 119 between 10 and 10:30 p.m. Interviews and subsequent investigation revealed that she was the possible suspect. She has past issues with drugs, some mental health concerns, as well as significant family problems. On 123, Amon actually called the sheriff's office claiming she was lost in the woods, and she was actually using the telephone of the victim. She was saying that she needed a ride. When deputies responded to her location, we were not able to locate her. Detectives continued to follow up on leads and hoping to locate her. We did find out that she was, through investigation, found out that she was given a ride by an individual and left the area before detectives got there. Of course, we did an autopsy was performed, and the results on that are still pending, and the state fire marshal is testing for accelerants and so forth. But I will tell you that we did find Amon. Marion County actually found her at a homeless camp, I believe, and she actually admitted to starting the fire. She also stated after starting the fire that she took the victim's cell phone and left the residence on foot, and she also told detectives that she was aware that the victim was sleeping in the residence when the fire was started. She told detectives she stole the victim's cell phone because she needed one, in her words, and she remains at the Marion County Detention Center, and she'll be transported to Hernando County. She's currently charged with first-degree murder, no bond. She's also charged with arson of an occupied dwelling and a $25,000 bond, and grand theft from a dwelling, and her bond on that is $5,000. So she is currently being charged with that particular homicide and that arson. Detectives had to work really hard on that one as well. She does have several criminal histories, not extensive, but there were a couple arrests for battery, possession of a concealed weapon, criminal mischief, petty theft, and grand theft of a motor vehicle and so forth. And those charges were disposed of previously. Now, our last one I want to talk about is one that occurred just within the last couple days. It happened at our homeless camp. Oops. This is a homeless camp that is on US 19. It is a little bit south of Northcliffe. a little bit north of the for those who are familiar with it, there's a Lowe's and a Home Depot. It's a little bit north of that. It's on the east side of the road. And we received a call at about on February 11th, just a couple days ago, and we received a call at about 4:20 p.m. Units were dispatched within about 22 seconds. And the first unit actually arrived in that particular situation about 44 seconds after being dispatched. So we had somebody in the area very quickly. Deputies located a victim who was stabbed and started performing first aid. Of course, Hernando County Fire Rescue was right behind us and transported the individual to a trauma center. And deputies developed suspect information. Regina Ritter. This is a picture of Regina. They started canvassing the area, and the canine actually located her bicycle a short distance away. It's important to note that she did not live in this homeless camp. She actually had a house close by, but she had several acquaintances there, including our victim. They weren't in a relationship as we'd normally think, but they certainly weren't paramours or anything. They were just acquaintances. And they found her bicycle leaning up against a tree. Fortunately, one of the deputies working the area through good community policing type details was able to contact this individual. He actually had her phone number, was able to contact her, and she said she was in the woods and she was lost. They were able to actually locate her in a wooded area near Hoffman Avenue and Blue Water Avenue, and the investigation revealed that she actually had a writ of bodily attachment for failure to pay child support out of Citrus County. So she was able to be taken into custody under that particular writ of bodily attachment. And after the interview, detectives started conducting a search of Ritter's bag incident to that arrest and located a bloody knife that we believe was used in the stabbing. And the important thing is we had several witnesses there. Again, a lot of interviews had to be done, and we were able to determine that none of the witnesses said that the victim in this case did anything overt. He was not aggressive in any way. They were arguing, but it was totally verbal. And during the altercation, the witnesses said that Ritter actually stabbed the victim. They know each other, they're acquaintances, and the witness statements, of course, were totally opposite from what Ritter was saying as far as what transpired. On February 12th at about 5 o'clock in the morning, unfortunately, the victim in this case was pronounced deceased at the hospital. He had some pretty significant injuries in the chest area, and they were not able to save him at the hospital. So after working with the state attorney's office, Ritter was charged with manslaughter regarding the stabbing and was held on a $30,000 bond. Now, we did serve a search warrant at her house, and we did obtain additional evidence, and an autopsy, of course, was completed by the medical examiner's office, and the results on that are pending. The case is still being investigated. Now, in this particular case with Ritter, she has an extensive criminal history, and I won't go over all of it, but she has arrest for aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, possession of methamphetamine, felony theft. She has felony driving with suspended driver's license, a couple of those, domestic battery, possession of paraphernalia, violation of a domestic violence injunction. She obviously has, this was not domestic related, but she has a lot of domestic type issues. Many of them have violence involved. And in this particular case, people may say, why was she out on the street with this extensive history? A lot of times our witnesses, particularly when it's involved in a domestic dispute, our witnesses and our victims are not always willing to give us the information or work with the state attorney's office to pursue the charges. So again, we want to encourage individuals, if somebody is a victim, particularly of domestic violence, to follow through with those charges, particularly if there's violence involved and it's a serious charge, because again, the only way we can prevent these things is making sure these people are off the streets. And I think most people would argue that she should not have been on the streets with her extensive criminal history. So that's a little bit of an update on the three. We have the one that occurred in South Brooksville. We're still under the investigation. And then the two subsequent, the arson, which resulted in a death, that we have made an arrest in that. And then this homeless camp, the stabbing, which again resulted in death, and we've made an arrest in that. So on the second two, I can probably answer a couple questions. I might have a couple detectives here if there's anything specific I can't answer, and I'll be happy to help try my best to answer them for you. Yes, ma'am.
On the second case about arson, can you tell us a little bit about the relationship between the suspect and the victim?
I've got to be very careful when it comes to Marcy's Law, but I can tell you that they were related. And again, this is a situation where somebody is trying out of the goodness of their heart to maybe take in somebody with some issues, both criminal and maybe some mental health issues, and then ends up becoming a victim. In this case, the worst possible outcome resulted in death, but it was a case where they were related. And the victims, in addition to providing some place for the person to stay, also often hopes that people will maybe help fix up the house a little bit or things like that, and often that doesn't work out. So again, interacting with people, even relatives that are living a high-risk lifestyle, really puts you in pretty serious danger sometimes.
And I know you really can't speak to the first case involving that 17-year-old, but there was a second victim who was also shot. Can you give us an update about that person?
I don't have anything specific other than the person is obviously still alive, and I believe has been released from the hospital. So that's all I can say on that. But yeah, that person's doing well, all things considered. So, any other questions on those?
The first one again, just to ask, you said there were arrests made on the Hazel Street?
No, I did not
you
say
did
that.
not? Okay.
Nope. I said we're working it very, very hard, and detectives, like I said, have been working pretty much 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I think it's important to remember that when you have multiple search warrants, these are not one sheet search warrants. They're usually multiple pages. They have to articulate why we want to search a particular residence or some other location. And we have to articulate that to the point where a judge reads that and says, yes, I'm going to authorize you to do that search. And those things can take, from beginning to end, each search warrant can take hours and hours and hours, sometimes multiple people involved. So again, I can't say how proud I am of my detectives and how much work goes into it. A very small number of people doing a yeoman's job when it comes to trying to get to the bottom of exactly what happened, and again, hold those individuals accountable for taking a life. So, any other questions? And again, on the Hazel one, as soon as we have any information that my detectives are comfortable in releasing, we'll again update you, hopefully sooner rather than later, but we will make that available to you as soon as we can. I know that's a big concern because we have not made an arrest in that yet for that particular act, but we're definitely working toward that end. So, any other questions or comments? All right, thank you very much for coming. Appreciate our media partners getting the information out. Again, on the first case, if anybody has any information, if they don't feel comfortable calling the sheriff's office, they can always call in tips to Hernando County Crime Stoppers, and they can be eligible for a cash reward, and they will remain anonymous. If they can give us something specific on that case, we will certainly take it and run down any leads. Thank you all very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Well done.
Everybody good?